Okay, hi everyone. So I'm gonna start on the P3 topic for week 3. Okay, for week 3, we are going to look at plants, classification of plants specifically. So last week, if you recall, okay, everybody. So now I'm gonna start the lesson. Okay, we are going to be looking at classification of plants. I'm going to introduce the students to basically how to classify plants according to specific features of the plant. Okay, so before we look at classifying plants, I'm going to introduce the plant system to the students. Last week, if you recall, we actually talked about how to distinguish between living and non-living things. Okay, so if you don't mind, I'm going to very quickly run through, okay, how do we know that something is a living thing? So, of course, plants fall under the categories of living thing. So, all plants will have the characteristics of living things that I'm going to talk about. So, very quickly, okay, if I were to run through the characteristics of living things, okay, there are 6 of them. One, all living things. Okay, I'm not going to write all. Um, Where is my eraser? Okay, guys. So, living things, all of them need 3 things to survive: need air, food, and water to survive. Okay? Without any of these 3, they will die. So, living things can die, as I mentioned. Without air, food, and water, they will die. Of course, they will also die due to sickness, due to injury, or old age. Okay, living things can grow. So all living things grow. All right. Number 4, living things respond to changes around them. So for example, if I see a caterpillar or a millipede on the floor, and I go and poke the millipede, okay, the millipede will curl up into a ball. That is an example of living things responding to changes around them. So for plants, okay, I'm not sure whether you have heard of a plant called the touch me not. Okay, so why the plant is actually called a touch me not is because the leaves of the plant are open. Okay, if it is not if no one go and touch the leaf. But let's say if I touch the leaves of the touch me not, the leaves will actually close up. All right. So that's an example of plants responding to changes around them. Of course, also plants will grow in the direction of sunlight. That's also responding to changes around them. Now, living things move. Okay, so this is a slightly tricky one. Okay, why do I say so? Now, only animals can move from place to place. Right? But plants, all right, they do not move from place to place, but they can move. So the example I gave just now about plants moving in the general direction of sunlight. Let's say if I were to put a plant in a black box. All right, I'm just going to draw it here. So this box is black, completely opaque, no light can pass through. I have a potted plant and I somehow poke a hole or I make a hole at one side of the wall of the box. So there's a hole here. Okay, and then the sunlight will of course be here. Okay, you will notice that after some time, the plant will start growing in the direction of the hole. So that is an example of the plant moving. All right. So remember, plants do not move from one place to another place, but they can move. Okay. The last one, of course, living things reproduce. So you will learn for plants subsequently in the next few slides. Plants either reproduce from seeds or spores, depending on whether they have flowers or not. Okay, I will go into detail later. So please remember your characteristics of living things and also and also remember that plants have all the 6 characteristics that I have listed out. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to introduce the plant system. As you can see, these are the important parts of the plant. Okay, I have labeled from the top to the bottom, draw arrows out to the parts that are important. Okay, so let's start from the top. This should be quite familiar to all of you. Okay, this is the flower of the plant. Not all plants have flowers, all right? So take note. Okay, so on the right at the top, we have a leaf. Now, please be careful in the exam, okay? If the examiner or the question in the exam is only pointing to one leaf, write the singular form. However, if you see 2 arrows, then it will be the plural form. So be very careful in the exam. Is the question pointing to a single leaf or many leaves? So that will affect your answer. So here we have a fruit. Once again, not all plants bear fruits. Only plants that have flowers will have fruits. Okay? Here we have the stem. And here we have the roots. All right, easy. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5 important parts of the plant that you need to know. Okay, of course, at the P3 level, you don't need to know in detail, okay, what is the function of each part. That is more like a P4 topic. You need to know these parts, and you need to know that we can classify plants according to these parts. Okay? So as you can see, how plants can be classified. Based on the flower, we can classify plants whether the flower grows singly or in clusters. So when I say singly, there's only one flower on each stalk. But in clusters, there are many flowers on each stalk. We will look at examples later. For classifying plants according to their leaves, okay, leaves can be classified according to their shape, according to their edge. Edge is basically the edge of the leaf, okay, and the leaf pattern. Okay, next, fruits. We can classify fruits according to the skin texture, the number of seeds in each fruit, and whether or not the fruits are edible. Okay, for the stem, we can classify plants according to whether they have weak stems or strong stems. Finally, for roots, okay, some plants have underground roots, some plants have root above the ground. Now, this is quite rare, but I will give you some examples later. Okay, so without further ado, let's look at flowers. So I mentioned just now, flowers can either grow singly as one flower on each stalk or in a cluster. So you see flowers that grow singly, examples are the sunflower, the rose, the tulip, and the hibiscus. Okay, for flowers that grow in clusters, this is a hydrangea. The ixora is basically a bunch of red color flowers. You tend to see them quite a lot in Singapore. Okay, also one thing that I would like to draw your attention to is if you were to look at the size of the flower. For a flower that grows singly, all right, look at the sunflower, it's so big, versus a single hydrangea, it's very small. Okay, so why the hydrangea and ixora, they tend to need to grow in clusters is because they are very, very small. At the end of the day, flowers want to attract animals for reproduction. And if the flower is too small, okay, the animals might not be attracted to them. Therefore, if my flower is so small, I need many of the flowers in one cluster to be able to attract animals more easily. Okay, so remember flowers, how I classify them? They can either be plants with flowers that grow singly or plants with flowers that grow in a cluster. That's all for flowers. I'm going to move on. Okay, so this is a brief introduction into the function of flowers. Basically, the flowers becomes the fruit after pollination and fertilization. So pollination and fertilization are processes of reproduction. Okay, so eventually, after reproduction, my flower will become the fruit. All right, so take note, as long as I see a plant that has fruit, I know that the plant has flowers. It's a flowering plant. So even if I see a plant, for example, a mango tree, I only see mangoes on it. I don't see any flowers. I still know that it is a flowering plant because of the fruits, the mangoes are there. All right. So mostly flowers, they are colorful, nice smelling, and they have this sweet nectar within them to attract animals. So this is the main function of flowers. Okay. So the processes of pollination and fertilization is basically classified under the chapter of reproduction in plants, and that will be a topic in P5. So you will learn that in P5. Okay, so let's look at fruits now. So as I mentioned, after pollination and fertilization, the flower becomes the fruit. Okay, so here I'm classifying fruits based on the number of seeds they have. There are three categories, okay, for classifying fruits according to the seeds, their seeds. I either have fruits with one seed, fruit with a few seeds, and fruits with many seeds. Now, y'all might ask, what is the difference between fruits with many seeds and fruits with a few seeds? Okay, so let me tell you what is the difference. For fruits with a few seeds, I can count. I can count. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, but for fruits with many seeds, I cannot count. It's too many already. All right, look at this. How am I going to count the number of seeds in the papaya? I'll go crazy. All right, so that's how I distinguish fruits with many seeds and fruits with few seeds. Okay, so examples of fruits with one seed, quite easy. Plum, avocado, peach, mango. All right, for fruits with a few seeds, we have orange, apple, pear. Okay, fruits with many seeds. Okay, I cannot count one. Papaya, watermelon, kiwi. All right, quite simple. This is the first way I can classify plants based on the number of seeds in their fruits. Another way that I can classify plants according to their fruits is looking at the skin of the fruits. Now, I will have fruits with smooth skin and fruits with rough skin. For fruits with smooth skin, you should know quite easy. As long as I touch the skin, it's smooth, you are good. Banana, papaya, apple, pear, they all have smooth skin. Okay? Fruits with rough skin, I have kiwi and of course the famous durian, spooky. All right, so classifying plants according to the skin of the fruits, the second way. Now, the third way of classifying plants according to their fruits is whether or not the fruits can be eaten. Okay, so I have edible and inedible fruits. On the left-hand side, you can see the edible fruits. You know, you can list them. Durian, papaya, banana, all of these are edible. Okay, but we also have some inedible fruits such as the pongpong. Okay, so the pongpong is poisonous. You won't want to eat them. Okay, so this is classifying plants according to their fruits. The next one we're going to look at, sorry, this is a repeat, is classifying plants according to their stem. So before we look at the different types of stem a plant can have, let's look at the function of the stem. Very important. Two functions that you need to know. It supports the plant. Why do I need to support the plant? The leaves of the plant, you will learn later. Okay, I'll just mention it now. Makes food. So plants are the only living things that can make their own food through a process called photosynthesis. Yeah, I repeat, plants are the only living things that can make their own food through the process of photosynthesis. All right. So in order for the plant to photosynthesize, one of the things that it needs is light.